and welcome to this week's reading vlog. This week is the week of the week-long readathon for Final Book Support Group hosted by Steph over at Steph Loves. I will link her channel down below if you don't know Steph already, but I'm sure you do. It's a very clever idea of a readathon, which is actually very, very helpful to a lot of people because I know everybody out there who is a reader will have at least one series, probably a lot more than that they're in the middle of and have been for some reason procrastinating reading the next book, or the final book especially, of that series. So the idea of this readathon is just to give everyone the kind of group support and motivation to pick up those books that we've been putting off for so long and actually get the series progressed or even completed. So of course I have quite a lot of options for this week, and I will be limited obviously because I'm at work for most of the week, including the weekend. However, I will try and read as much as I can and follow along with the sprints on Steph's channel and others, and hopefully have a really productive week. So first things first, I have two books carrying over from last week. I have Night Shadow by Sebastian de Castell and A Column of Fire by Ken Follett. This one especially is going to be my number one priority. I need to read probably just under half of this book. So I'm up to page 450 out of about 900 pages, so pretty much halfway, yeah. I've been really enjoying this book. I read the majority of it last week. However, I want to get back into this and finish this one off as early as I can throughout the week. It's surprisingly quite a fast read considering how chunky it is. You have lots of different characters that we're following in very varied settings, so it does keep the plot flowing. It's not just one small group of people in one place, which I think I would find quite dull. So despite the historical setting and the kind of political context and things like that, it's actually quite a quick read. So hopefully over the next couple of days this one will get completed, and this is indeed a final book. It's the third in a trilogy, so that will make me feel very productive at the start of the week. I then also am partway through, and again about halfway through, Night Shadow by Sebastian de Castell, which is the second of 4 books. This is, however, a reread series, so it's absolutely not a priority. I've been reading this one recently. Sorry, the sun's just come out, so the lighting's gone strange. I've been reading this one recently because I've just been so in the mood for this series, and I probably will carry on with this one too, but it's not a priority read for the week. In terms of other books I want to pick up that are continuations of series I'm in the middle of, I have a lot to go on, but some that sprung to mind straight away is, first of all, The Golden Cage by J.D. Oswald, which is the third in, I think, so far 4 books in the Ballad of Sir Benfro series, which follows a dragon and a boy in this sort of traditional fantasy world, and lots of drama and lots of action, and they're just really, really good books. Very kind of nostalgic feeling as well for me. Even though I didn't read these when I was younger, it feels like the kind of fantasy book that first got me into fantasy. So I'm very excited to get back into this series. It's been about a year since I read the one before this, so it is about time I picked this book up. Another one I would really like to get to, which I definitely have been procrastinating, is Master Artificer by Justin Call. This is technically a final book because though it's only the second in a series, it's the latest one in that series to be published, the series being The Silent Gods, so preceded by Master of Sorrows by Justin Call, which was a 5-star read for me last year. I absolutely loved that one. Isn't this the most stunning cover you've ever seen? So I would really like to get to this one, but it's a chunky book and I'm not sure if I'm going to have time. But if I could at least start this one this week, that would be good. I don't want to go into a synopsis really because it's been a little while since I read this, but I have noticed, I love it when books do this, that there is actually a summary of the previous book at the start of this one. Just the story so far, and there's a couple of pages which summarises events. So if I do pick this one up, I will go through that first and probably give you a bit of a summary of my own of the summary of the first book, so we know what to expect in this one. And then the final one, which I have immediately to hand and has sprung to mind, is the 6 Tudor Queens series by Alison Weir, which I had the whole series on loan from a friend last year, so I really need to hurry up and get these read so I can give them back to her. So this is the 5th of 6 in the series. Each book follows a different one of Henry VIII's wives from Tudor England. I like these a lot. I like historical books. They're not the most exciting things in the world. Again, they're quite quick to read. But I've enjoyed the plots and it's been nice to see a different take on quite well-known historical events. I like history, so I do know this background quite well, but it's interesting to see different aspects of the characters brought to light by telling the stories from the Queen's perspective rather than Henry's perspective, which most history is told in. So I would like to get to this one as well, and as I say, we'll then be able to return this one to my friend. So that gives me quite a lot to be working with. I also want to read at least one audiobook this week, and that is Where the Drowned Girls Go by Shauna Maguire, which is the latest book in the Wayward Children series. I've been really enjoying these books. I read all of the series so far last year, when Where the Drowned Girls Go has only recently been published, so I haven't yet got to that one. But again, it is an actual final book, so I definitely want to try and get to that. It's available on Scribd as an audiobook, which is how I've consumed the entire series so far. And they're actually really, really short books. I think they're all under 200 pages, so the audiobook is about 4 hours, which, listened to a little bit sped up, I can get to probably one of the evenings this week after work. So that gives me quite a lot to work with. I'm very, very excited to get going with these books. As I said, I'm going to make a start with Column of Fire this evening. So it's Monday afternoon, I've just got home from work. It's still delightfully sunny out there, which I'm very, very happy about. So I'm going to, don't think it's quite warm enough to sit in the garden, but I'm going to sit here in my room and enjoy the last of the afternoon sun and read a little bit more of Column of Fire. So I will update you on my progress later on when I have more to report. Hello, it is now Wednesday morning and I'm very pleased to report I've already finished my first book for the week. I've finished A Column of Fire by Ken Follett, which I had pretty much exactly half of left over from last week. So I've read about 450 pages already this week, which I'm very pleased about. And I really had a good time with this book. I always enjoy the Kingsbridge series. I like Ken Follett's writing a lot. And as I've said before, despite their ginormous size, they are actually really quite quick-paced books to read. They're not too complicated in terms of kind of political language or really long sentences or other things that you often get with historical fiction. And this one in particular, being set in Elizabethan period, was a bit more of a familiar period of history for me, so I probably found it a bit quicker for that reason too. I was a big fan of the characters as well in this. I found those very engaging, very easy to read about. So Ned and Marjorie, our two main characters, were both very interesting, very lovely people, and just a nice perspective to view the world from, I suppose. And I really liked how cleverly Ken Follett was able to weave their stories, of Ned particularly, to weave the story into actual historical events that happened and to make it seem like he was instrumental in some of the things that we know from history, which I think is just so clever. Not just Ned as well, some of the other characters, one of the more antagonistic characters as well, this happened a lot with, and it was very, very clever. I also really liked Sylvie. I thought she was very ahead of her time and a very, very strong character, so it was a good book all round. I love this series, and I do still have the prequel to read, so The Evening and the Morning, but I am now completed with the trilogy, so I'm glad to have finished yet another series off, and I'm not sure how the prequel will actually fit in, because the whole point of these books is that it's set around the settlement of Kingsbridge, which was sort of founded by the creation of Kingsbridge Priory, the cathedral, which happens in the first book, The Pillars of the Earth. So I guess it's just in the same geographical area, but I'm not quite sure. But I will try and get to the next one anyway, the prequel, in the next few months, because I do really enjoy these books. But just wanted to let you know, as I say, quick update, just about to dash off to work, but first book of the week already completed. We are doing very well. Hello, so I come to you this morning with a bit of a change of plan in the week. So, as you may know already by now, I work in the NHS, and every now and then, if we have an increase in COVID cases, everyone has to go and do a PCR test. Yesterday was one of those such days, and unfortunately I did come back with a positive result, despite not feeling particularly unwell. I just feel like I have a slight cold and that's about it. But as per our work policy, I now have to have at least 5 days off work. So, fortunately for me, as I say, I'm not feeling too bad, so it does mean that I'm going to have at least 5 days free to do hopefully lots of reading and lots of cosy activities and things as well. So obviously I need to avoid large groups of people, but that very much lends itself to reading a lot anyway. And I don't need to officially isolate as in stay in the house. So I plan to have lots of nature walks, lots of reading and lots of fun things at home too. So at the moment I am sat enjoying the beautiful morning sunshine in my bedroom. I have lots of cosy blankets and things as well, as it's a bit chilly this morning. But I am planning to head out for a walk a little bit later, just to our local hills. I'll go kind of mid-morning when I know it will be quite quiet. All the dog walkers and things will have finished and nobody will be out of work yet. At the moment though, I am enjoying my coffee, as you've just seen, and I am doing a little bit of one of my colouring books. So I've got this pattern on the go at the moment. I don't know if you can see that in the sun, from my Lost Ocean colouring book by Johanna Basford, my favourite illustrator of these books. And I also got myself some new markers recently, so I'm enjoying this rainbow of beautiful fine liners to colour in the very, very intricate details in this book. I tend to use fine liners rather than crayons in this one because they're really, really tiny detailed patterns, and I just find that so relaxing. It's a beautiful thing to do. And while I'm occupying myself with this, I have also been listening to a bit more of the audiobook of Night Shadow by Sebastian de Castell. So I am currently almost finished with this book. I have what equates to about 125 pages left, I think. Yeah, I'm on 446 and there are 600. So yeah, 126 pages left. So yeah, 124 pages left. And I really want to finish this today, so I'm going to probably finish listening to it while I'm on my walk later, but we'll get on with as much as I can of this now. I love this book so much. You know my thoughts already on The Greatcoats. This is just one of the best series ever. I love the writing in this. I'm just unfortunately up to the quite hard-hitting section towards the end. If you've read it, you'll know. So that's why I wanted to do something mindless and light while I'm dealing with all of the torture and torment of the last part of this book. But I'm thoroughly enjoying it, as I said, and I'm really keen to get this one done today. I think I will also take a different physical book out on my walk as well, and try and find a sunny bench somewhere and sit and have a coffee and just enjoy the sunshine. It feels like spring today and it's beautiful. So I think in terms of my next physical book, obviously this week is the final book support group run by Steph, so I want to do just that and try and carry on with another book in a series, and these two are both books that I do want to get to fairly soon, both continuations of fantasy series. So Master Artificer is the second book following on from Master of Sorrows. I'm not sure what this series is. The Silent Gods series it's called. I did not know that. But Master of Sorrows was a 5-star read for me last year. So I've been really looking forward to getting to Master Artificer, but also slightly putting it off because it is a chunky book and I know we're quite early on in a big series, with this being the latest up to date that's published. So I don't need to get to this one urgently, but I would like to read it at some point this year so I don't completely forget Master of Sorrows. I did start reading this a little bit last year via audiobook, but very quickly realised it's the sort of book I want to read physically and not solely by audiobook. So I wanted to wait till I've got the paperback, which I have had for a couple of months now. So I think I might get to this one because as I'm now off work with very little in the way of plans for the next few days, I should be able to get through this and probably follow on with some sprints and things as well. And I can always dip into the audiobook, I still have it, so I can always read little bits while I'm out and about in nature as well. The other option I have is The Golden Cage, which is the third book in the, what's this one called? The Ballad of Sir Benfro series. I'm terrible with series names, can you tell? And this one is a beautiful kind of quite classically told fantasy story revolving around a dragon called Benfro and a boy called Errol and their adventures through this beautiful kind of old medieval style fantasy world. Again, this is quite far through a series, so I don't want to give you too many spoilers, but I've really been enjoying these. They're very cosy reads for me, but I haven't read a book from this series for about a year again. I think I read The Rose Cord, which was the second one in the series, in my very first vlog actually was it May that I started? I can't even remember, but a little while ago. So again, I want to get to this one this year before I forget completely what the series was about. So one of these will be started today, I think, out on my walk. But first things first, let's continue with Night Shadow and let's deal with the torment. I'm excited, but also scared. I will talk to you again later once I'm out about on my walk. Let's go on an adventure. It's so such a beautiful day, perfect blue sky, light breeze, but actually quite warm and really quiet and peaceful out here in the forest. I'm so happy today, it feels like spring. Hello, it is now Saturday morning, actually nearly Saturday afternoon, it's 11:45, but I've had a very productive morning of getting lots of errands done around the house. As you can hear from my voice, I do still have kind of mild cold symptoms, but fortunately have not felt too much worse since I checked in with you the other day and obviously told you my COVID positive status. I was amused to see as well on the final book support group sprints last night with Steph and friends that basically everyone was calling them COVID sprints because there were quite a lot of people both on the sprints and watching them who were also saying they had COVID, so this is life at the moment. But as I say, fortunately not feeling too unwell. So I'm actually just about to go out for another walk again. I'm going to our local hills once again, as I did 2 days ago, and taking both an audiobook and physical book with me. So I was reading a little bit of Master Artificer the last time I was out. However, I've jumped straight back into the Greatcoats yet again. I did finish Night Shadow audiobook on that day as well, and then immediately picked up Saint's Blood, and I'm now about a third of the way through that. So once again doing a mixture of audiobook and physical reading. So I'm going to take Saint's Blood with me because that's just the book I'm in the mood for. I'm just really feeling the Greatcoats series right now, and it's been a while since I've been this enthusiastic about a reread, so I'm going with it. Technically, I am still finishing a series, so it works for the readathon, even though it's not one that I particularly needed to read, but nevertheless, we will get through that. But I will also continue with a little bit of Master Artificer, I think, this weekend. And I have been productive this week. I have also finished off A Column of Fire from last week, and I do still want to get to Where the Drowned Girls Go by Shauna Maguire, which again will be an audiobook and will actually probably be able to be done in about 2.5 hours. Because I tend to listen to them fairly sped up, and the actual audiobook on normal speed is only 4 hours, so I can definitely get through that one, and that will be an actual series completed, so I feel like I'll have fulfilled the brief a little bit more. But anyway, without further ado, let's head off for a walk, and I will hopefully show you some more of the beautiful spring sunshine we've been having this week, and a bit more scenery as well.
Hello, it is a lovely sunny evening, as you've probably seen by the shots I've already shown you. I'm on a lovely evening walk, avoiding people but enjoying all of the signs of spring which have been emerging over the last couple of days. It's so beautiful. I'm really lucky to actually be off work sick at some of the best weather we've had all year. It's so lovely. I've been able to spend most of my time outside, just local walks or sitting in the garden, and it's just been absolutely beautiful, as well as allowing me to do lots and lots of reading. So I've had a really productive day. I've managed to finish off physically reading A Column of Fire. I've managed to read the entirety of Where the Drowned Girls Go by Shauna Maguire today, which was one of my books I wanted to do for Final Book Support Group, which is still going on this week and which I'm doing quite well with so far. This is the 7th, I believe, book and the most recently published, so I'm now up to date with the series of the Wayward Children series by Shauna Maguire, which I got into last year, and I read most of the books last year. I think the 6th one I can't remember if I read at the start of this year or if it was, no, I think it was the end of last year as well. But I've been really enjoying them, some a lot more than others. So I think the 1st, 2nd and 4th books were 5 stars for me. And then there's been a mixture of 3s and 4 stars for the rest of them. So I think depending which world we're following and which main characters are most prevalent in the story depends on how much I rate the book and how much I'm invested in the story. But this particular one I did like more than its predecessor, and it was interesting actually to see a few different loose ends or kind of more divergent parts of the story be tied together. So we revisited a character from the previous book who otherwise had been very much in isolation. She'd been very much out on a limb compared to the rest of the series, but we revisited her character. This is Reagan I'm talking about in this one, but also we followed Cora mainly as our main character, and she is a character we'd met in a couple of the previous books but hadn't had her own complete story yet. I will admit I was a little bit trepidatious going into this book because Cora is not one of my favourite characters. I don't mind her, but she's just not one that I particularly connect to, and her world is not a world that I would feel connected to in the slightest. So I was a little bit worried where this one would go. Plus the fact that most of the book is actually set in our world, or their version of our world, rather than any of the other worlds that the characters visit through their doors. So I wasn't sure if this one might be just a bit boring. It might be a bit too much like a contemporary, but I'm pleased to say it was not. I did really enjoy this story. It wasn't my favourite, as I say. I think I'm going to give this one a 4 stars. I liked it better than the previous one, and also better than the 3rd one in the series, which I hadn't particularly got on with at all. But yeah, it was a good one. It was okay all round. So 4 star for this one. I forgot how much I love the writing in these. So I listened to it as an audiobook via Scribd, which was only 4.5 hours, and I listened to it on double speed, so I got through it in just over 2 hours. And I particularly like listening to this series as audiobooks because I love the language, I love the writing style. That is my favourite thing about the series, and I'd forgotten just how beautiful and whimsical and how meaningful all of the sentences are. You know, every little thing that's said has some great message behind it or is an inspiring phrase for the characters to follow, and I just love that. So I very much enjoyed being back in that world, and I now eagerly await the publication of any more stories. I really want Cade's story. Why is Shauna Maguire not writing Cade's story? I'm sure everybody wants that one, but it was sad not to obviously have any association with some of my favourite characters. So I really like Nancy from the first book. I really like Jack as well. She's probably my favourite character in the series, but obviously they are no longer in the series actively, the kind of up-to-date storyline. They're not in our world anymore. But I did enjoy seeing the different dynamics of Cora in the different school and facing a different threat than we've seen before. So it was a very good book all round, and I'm glad I finally read it and got up to date with another series. So I think I'm going to head home now. The sun is just about going down, so I think it's time to head home. It's gone a bit colder as well, and I will see which book I want to pick up this evening.
Hello, I am just checking in to wrap up this vlog. It is now actually Monday morning, but I finished reading quite late last night and didn't want to be vlogging in the dark. I've just been enjoying the sunny aesthetic this week, so I thought I would wait till this morning. I am still off work anyway, so it hasn't really made any difference waiting. But I thought I would let you know my progress and where I've got to with various books this week before I get started on next week's vlog, filming later. So I have written down all the different books that I've read because I've been jumping in and out of lots of different books, but I've had a very, very successful week. I've actually read over 1,800 pages this week, which is a colossal amount compared to how much I usually get read. So obviously I just need to be off work all the time and be much more productive with my reading. So to take you through, I actually have the stack here that I've been reading from this week. So the first one that I finished off was A Column of Fire. I read about half of this last week and I've read the final 470 pages of this week. This was the first one during the week. I think I finished this on Wednesday. Thoroughly enjoyed this. Really, really captivating mixture of actual historical events and really interesting fictional characters as well. I've loved being back with Ken Follett's writing, and I'm glad that I have actually completed the Kingsbridge trilogy now. I do also have the prequel book, The Evening and the Morning, which is set kind of vaguely around the same setting as well, but way before the events of the original trilogy, so I might try and get to that one soon. But Kingsbridge trilogy is now completed. The second book that I also carried over from last week and have now finished is Night Shadow by Sebastian de Castell. Again, I was about halfway through this one. I've read the final 300 pages of this again earlier on this week. I think I finished this one on Thursday. Absolutely loved this. 5 out of 5 stars, as the series had been previously, and all the other books in the series are proving to be on reread. I love the characters in this. I love how cleverly written they are. I love the prose. I love that it's a constant string of action, but also really kind of heartfelt moments as well. Just one of my favourite series of all time, and I've thoroughly enjoyed getting back into this one. I followed up Night Shadow with, of course, the next book in the series, Saint's Blood, again by Sebastian de Castell. This one was a 564-page book, which, again, I have read the entirety of this week. So this one, everything I said for the previous one counts for this too. Again, a favourite book in a favourite series, 5 stars. I have very little to add. I love this series so much. I then started, but actually didn't get very far in the end, through Master Artificer by Justin Call. So once again, this book is somewhat intimidating me. It's no thicker than some of the other things I've talked about. Column of Fire, I think, is actually bigger, but I think because this is so detailed and different of a fantasy world than anything I read normally, it just has a very different tone to it, and it feels like a really serious book to me, like not in terms of its content necessarily, but like something I really have to concentrate and that I need to absorb every little detail of to get the proper experience. So I didn't want to be rushing through it while I was jumping from one book to another, and I've been kind of in the mood reading vibe this week. So I have read 166 pages of this, but I think I'm going to just put this one on hold, as I have done the past couple of days, finish off all the things I'm kind of part way through, and then at the end of the month settle down and just have this as my one read that I'm in the middle of then, and hopefully get this one finished by the end of the month. But I'm intrigued by what I've read so far. I am enjoying it, but a bit early to be giving you any thoughts on this one just yet, but I'm only a little way through, but hope to continue soon. Then the final book I have physically here, I don't think I actually mentioned to you that I picked up the other day, but I was just, after finishing A Column of Fire, I just felt like some more historical fiction, and I'd mentioned this one at the start of the week as an ongoing series that I was in the middle of, being the Six Tudor Queens series by Alison Weir. This one is on a loan from a friend, and I have read, as you can see there, about a third of this one. I've read 140 pages, so I think I picked this one up on, I don't know, maybe Thursday or Friday. I was just sat in the evening and thought, oh, I'll just dip into that one, and actually ended up reading more than I thought I would. So this one I think is going to be number one priority to carry on with next week, or today actually, this being next week. But I'm really enjoying what I am reading of this so far. This series has been a bit hit or miss with me. Certain aspects of it I've loved, other things I found quite boring. I think when you get the more kind of action-based political side of the plot, it's very interesting. And also when we get backstory of the Queen's characters, so before they meet Henry, before they come to court, that side I found interesting. But when it's just their daily goings-on with the other members of the court and with, you know, marriages and pregnancies and all that kind of thing, it's just not my kind of book. I get very bogged down in that and just find it very, very samey. So I'm hoping this one is not too much of that, but I mean, I'm a third of the way through and she hasn't met Henry yet, so we're doing okay so far. But this one will be one that I will carry on, as I say, in next week's vlog. The other book which I did manage to read in its entirety but I don't have physically is Where the Drowned Girls Go by Shauna Maguire, which was the final book to date in the Wayward Children series, which I very much enjoyed. It wasn't an absolute favourite from that series. I have enjoyed some of the others more, so this one I gave 4 stars. Some of them have been 5 stars, some of them have been 3, so this was kind of an average one in the series for me. But very much enjoyed being back in that writing style. That's the main thing I like about this series, is the lyrical, whimsical way that it's written. I really admire Sean Maguire for that. And again, lovely mixture of characters, very good representation of lots of different types of characters and lots of different identities, different problems that they're going through, and the way that all of this diverse group can come together to see the good in life and to get each other through these very troublesome times. I really like that feeling. It's quite warm and cosy kind of reading for me, but also with that beautiful, whimsical, fantastical twist as well. So another series which I managed to complete, and one which I'm very, very glad to have returned to. So as I said, a very, very successful week all round. Over 1,800 pages, I think it was 1,843 I've got written down here, that I've managed to read. So very, very successful, and I'm so happy. This mixture of being off sick but also participating in the final book support group readathon this week has really, really helped my productivity. So thank you very much to Steph from Steph Loves for all of your hard work in creating this readathon, and I will continue to follow along with any sprints that go on throughout the rest of the month, or any of the Twitter activity as well, and try and carry on with my theme of completing series or continuing with series for the final week and a half of March. So without further ado, I'm going to wrap this vlog up here, go and get started with editing, and then get reading for next week's vlog. And so thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Give me a like down below if you have. Chat to me in the comments about any of the books you've read this week, any of the books I've read, anything else you'd like to discuss with me. I always love to chat to you. And please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more from me. It really, really means a lot and helps as well. I will see you very soon in next week's video, so goodbye for now.